First, the coffee. Hey guys, how are you? So, I'm back in Portugal. I left on the 6th of June this year after my partner unexpectedly broke up with me. I spent 7 months in Portugal, just winding down from the tour of last year, surfing my butt off, connecting with the spiritual community, writing 7 songs, recording them, releasing them, building a website, being overall very productive, creating a lot of video content for you guys also. Then I took off, the breakup happened, and I had to go on tour again. Despite the breakup that really stung at the time, I was very excited for the year ahead. I was facing 50 plus shows between May and November, all of which I played in the end. But everything proved to be a little more difficult than expected. I thought, okay, now I'm single, time to mingle. I'm going to be many places. It's going to be exciting seeing many different cities in Europe. We did a big European tour also through all the former East Bloc countries. We went to England, Manchester, London, Denmark, France, Sweden. We played everywhere. So on the drive back to Germany after the breakup, I cried a lot. I went surfing in Spain. I thought I'd digest the whole thing very well. But I noticed that my joints started hurting. My wrists, I'm a drummer. I'm a drummer for Germany's artist, Nena, one of the most selling female artists of all time in Germany. But I somehow started developing these psychosomatic symptoms. Because after 2 shows, all these problems were gone. But after that, I got some sudden hearing loss on my right ear. I've had this maybe 10 times in my life, and it always healed by itself after a couple of weeks. But it's always very stressful, it always makes me very nervous. Not only because of my job, but just because I'm pretty fearful of physical symptoms I can't control, the uncertainty behind it. Is it going to go away? Is it going to stay forever? Your perception is just really off when your right ear is clogged. So yeah, that was pretty stressful. Went to all kinds of doctors, like usual. Nobody could do a damn thing about it. Went away by itself. Well, that was already mid-July. I had already played like 7-8 shows. But what happened then really struck me hard. After a show in Belgium, we all got kicked out of the nightliner, the tour bus, at 6 a.m. after pretty much no sleep, pretty bad sleep on the bus, at the airport train station in Frankfurt. Basically, from the pitch black bunk bed straight into absolute insanity. I took the train home to Berlin, had a coffee, got to Berlin, was dead tired, but couldn't sleep, which worried me a little bit. Then in the evening, I laid down, still slightly worried about not having been able to sleep, and I maybe managed to sleep 2 hours that night. The next morning, I was admittedly pretty exhausted. The fact that I didn't sleep didn't necessarily calm me down either. So over the next couple of days, I developed an anxiety loop that sent me straight into insomnia. I didn't sleep, which made me fearful of being awake because I didn't know if I was going to function. And that fear, that hyperarousal, in turn kept me awake at night. And it got really bad to a point where I became physically so anxious after a couple of days that I couldn't lay in bed after 6 a.m. Normally I would get up between 9 and 10 because this physical anxiety would just creep up my body, kind of a tingling sensation, almost as if a light would go off in my body after barely any sleep anyway, or no sleep, depending. Sometimes I slept 2 hours, sometimes 3, sometimes not at all. So I got dragged deeper and deeper into this anxiety loop, and I had to keep playing shows in that state. I think I played 20 shows before something clicked in my head, and I finally understood that the only way to get out of this loop is self-acceptance, self-kindness, and patience, because there was literally nothing one could do. No doctor could help, no sleeping pill would help, would only prolong the process. The heavy-duty pills would make you dependent. Yeah, it was a very, very bleak summer. It took me a while to accept the fact that there's nothing to be done. There's only ways to meet the situation. That's something that you have to internally understand. It's not something that you can just trust without implicit understanding, implicit knowledge, the wisdom, the experience. I would try my best to accept the unacceptable. And then I kind of understood that if I couldn't accept that I would accept the fact that I couldn't accept that. That's the first step to acceptance. If you are suffering from insomnia, you will come across a lot of stuff online, like sleep hygiene, creating more and more sleep efforts, all kinds of useless medicine or drugs, other healing modalities that promise you to make you sleep in a heartbeat. It's all lies. If you suffer from sleep anxiety, the reason you can't sleep is hyperarousal, the fear of not sleeping, which keeps you awake at daytime and nighttime, and in turn makes you more fearful of the night ahead and the day ahead, because maybe you can't function one way. It's accepting that you can't do anything, but at the same time meeting the situation in the right way, which is self-acceptance, self-kindness, very important, and patience. I found an online platform called the Sleep Coach School. I'll link it down below. And these people were the first ones to actually understand my problem. I tried cognitive behavioral therapy, insomnia, and I was just baffled by the fact that fear wasn't mentioned at all. Literally the main cause of my insomnia, hyperarousal, the nervous system being alert in order to protect me from something that I made look dangerous. So I was ready to go to bed. Most nights I kept adding up more and more sleep efforts, sleeping mask, earplugs, window blinds, podcasts, rain sounds, a calming tea before bedtime also. And whenever I left out one of those and couldn't sleep well, my brain learned that I would need those. And of course, these didn't help at all because the main cause of me being awake at night was my hyperarousal. And the more sleep efforts I added, the more I imprisoned myself. After 2 months, I was horribly anxious. It normally started in the morning at 6 a.m. with physical anxiety creeping up my body and peaking at around noon or 1 p.m. and then slowly dying down towards the evening. And in the evenings, before bedtime, I normally felt good. But of course, I was always a bit worried I couldn't sleep again. Sometimes I would sleep 4 hours, sometimes 6, even 8 hours, a couple of nights, but it always came back to another speed bump, another night of 0 sleep or 2 hours of sleep. Some of which were followed by, flights and train rides to a concert. I had to play the same evening, 2-hour shows as a drummer. Physically very straining. And let me tell you, after 4 months, I did my blood work, did all kinds of tests, and I'm physically totally healthy. One of my main concerns, of course, was, is this dangerous? And from my experience, being physically healthy, it didn't change a thing concerning my health at all. The only problem was actually my fear of the whole thing. That's what caused daytime tiredness, depression later on in the process. Yeah, I went through many different stages. Crazy anxiety that stopped when we went on tour in October, played 17 shows in October alone, sleeping in a nightliner, a bus that's shaking the whole time and it's pretty loud, people partying. That's where I kept sleeping 4 to 5 hours every night. So I started tearing down the prison walls, removing the sleep efforts. The sleeping mask and the earplugs were first. Then occasionally I didn't drink the tea anymore. Took my magnesium sometimes not, depending on how physically active I was during the day. It's not that you can't have any sleep hygiene, but if it's for the cause of making you sleep, with every sleep effort, basically create another layer of fear. You're imprisoning yourself more and more. So yeah, I removed one after the other, which takes a lot of courage. Practicing self-acceptance during the process, self-kindness. I came across so many self-judgments during the process, negative self-talk. I was so harsh on myself my whole life, and I only realized it now. So after all, that was an incredible eye-opener. And the way recovery works for me is something that I could have never predicted. I was laying in bed one night thinking about all kinds of things, and only an hour later, I realized I didn't think about sleep at all. And that was the first step for me to trust the process. I don't know if I slept well that night or not. I had a couple of good nights in the last weeks, 6 to 7 hours. Then another series of 4-hour nights, like 4 in a row. But the last 2 nights were full 8 hours. I feel that something is shifting. And if you have the same problem, definitely check out the Sleep Coach School. I'm not saying that because I get money. I'm really just saying that because they are capable of really explaining what's going on and helping you through the process, making you understand. Honestly, man, at first it was just so scary to understand. Not even to understand, to just actually hear that there's nothing you can do. And finally, you develop an understanding that, there's nothing to be done but just accept it. Even if it's super hard, I know the anxiety is crushing. And if you can't accept it, accept that. And over time, I promise you, your nervous system will wind down. It might take a couple months, but if you understand the process, it'll happen for sure. I've heard of people who struggle with insomnia for 25 years, and after joining that program. It took them 4 months to sleep well again. And now I'm back in Portugal. I was still pretty anxious and tired when I started driving down here after the tour was finished. And it took me a lot of courage to leave my home and drive into the unknown, even though everything is going on in my head, which might even be more scary because I can't escape it. And yeah, the drive was pretty horrible. I had a stomach flu as well. Slept in hotels when normally I would have always slept in my van. I have a big bed in my van. And got here and didn't need a function, which also of course helped. But really, it didn't make much of a difference for me subjectively. The fear of not sleeping didn't depend on what I would have to do at daytime. For me, it was just the fear of the unknown, the fear of physical symptoms I can't control. Would I have to function the next day or not? Would I have to work or not? Didn't really matter. I wanted to enjoy my life. I wanted to be able to enjoy my life. Thinking about not being able to serve, not being able to socialize, that already scared the hell out of me. Couldn't care about functioning at some job. Obviously, I played 52 shows with very little sleep and it worked. So yeah, things started loosening up. My nervous system stopped clenching its fists and I'm getting more and more positive. I trust the process more and more. And also, if I have a bad night now, it doesn't scare me that much anymore. I absolutely realized, and that's a big one, that the one thing that is hard to endure after a bad night is not the lack of sleep, it's not the tiredness, it's the worry. Just relax, do whatever you would do, even if nothing is fun. Nothing was fun for me for months. I just tricked my brain, my animal brain, to trusting that I'm okay. And I am okay. I've been okay all along. It was just a big misunderstanding. My brain trying to protect me, which is also good to know. Your animal brain is just trying to protect you because it thinks the night is dangerous. It's got to keep you awake because you've come up with the idea that there is a threat. Yeah, and unwinding this process takes time, patience, self-kindness, trust. And I want to say one more thing about patience. I've always been a very impatient person. And I've only now realized that impatience is not just, I got to do something. I want to be practical. I want to be effective. And getting angry when that's not the case or getting aggravated. Impatience really is fear. Fear of staying with discomfort. I've really, really experienced that now. Even in traffic when I'm driving and somebody is slowing me down and I get really aggravated. My body starts tingling if somebody's slowing me down. It's discomfort. There's a great quote by the spiritual teacher Rumi. I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's something along the lines of impatience is only seeing the thorn and not the whole rose, while patience is obviously seeing the rose even if you look at the thorn. So I can assure you, this too shall pass. Check out the Sleep Coach School. Be patient. Practice self-kindness. It ultimately leads to self-love. Be courageous. This whole process was honestly the biggest lesson in my life. And in hindsight, I really think it was inevitable. It's really the one biggest test in life. You have to be aware. You have to be in the moment. You have to trust the process. These are all things that I kept postponing. Whenever I slipped through a problem, came out the other end unscathed, I escaped that challenge. And now I couldn't. I was in a dead end, trapped, having to confront my fear of the unknown, my fear of loss of control, and I had to face my self-hatred. All the little things I didn't like about myself, all the things I judged myself for. And here we are, a lot wiser, still recovering, practically maybe not out of the woods yet, but I'm good. So guys, keep hanging in there. I know it's tough. Trust the process. Much love.